So I feel like there is a reason why there is a lack of interest in the game, or at least a declined interest in the game, and that kind of starts with the cancellation of future events and as well as local events. Just a couple weeks ago, Gen Con actually announced that it's going to be canceled and effectively going to be canceling the DBS event that came with it. And additionally, all events up to June 30th are going to be canceled per the DBS website, which is kind of a big blow, because not only that Channel Fireball is going to be actually supporting, or supposed to be, or was going to be supporting the game in San Jose back in April, but that, it's a big thing. The events are something to look forward to. It's the reason to play a game, to play competitively and play it every single time, to get practice. And all together, it's just to have fun and to meet your friends. And that's a huge part of the community and as well as just the game in general. But that also begs the question, what about the rest of the year for events and as well as nationals? From the schedule, we actually have PPG in September in Kissimmee or Orlando, and I think Dallas with Core TCG in October. But in the meantime, since that's a few months away, we kind of have to address product releases. Most products in May and June, I think even July, actually got pushed back about a month. And we're kind of seeing that effect right now, even with the Draftbox 5, and as well as the low short print of that. And that's a whole different issue, honestly. But, with this also pushes back the excitement about a product release, even buying and purchasing different releases and different products. But even if we were excited and we did open it, we really don't have anywhere to play it. And I think it really varies on every state. It's not going to be very consistent for every single state and every single place that a person could play in. Now, let's say, on the same note, if we did have more events later in the year, it's kind of hard to say if everybody will actually go to those events. I don't know if people will risk, or they have their own immunocompromised diseases, or they're just not safe. For me, I have upper respiratory issues, so it's just kind of hard to convince myself, hey, I'm going to go play a card game, and the pandemic is still going on, and there's a virus that can't be cured. That type of thing. It's kind of hard to convince myself to actually go. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that. But since we are on the topic of events, Bandai actually did just release the preview, I guess, of the event packs, including Son Goku Saiyan Instincts. And this, while I have already said my thoughts on the main Facebook site, is kind of a good thing. I think this is probably going to be the first event pack card that's going to retain its value for a longer period of time, more than a few months, I would say. I doubt that it's going to be as cheap as the most expensive event pack card that's on TCG Player right now, being about $5 or $6. It's probably going to be around $20 to $30 realistically, even by the end of the year. And it's still going to be kind of hard to access, or at least obtain, because of the accessibility of events. But as the year goes on and in the future, it's going to be more accessible and it's going to drop in price. It's just how card games work. It's just how everything works, really, is buy and sell, demand and supply, you know what I'm saying? But I hope Bandai does continue this in the future, because it is a really good card. It is something to incentivize people to go to events and to open packs and to get excited about these things, and it's very usable. I would imagine that going in the future, when this card is more accessible and more attainable, it's going to be in mostly every deck. Now, okay, what about other card games? Now, if you look at Pokemon, they actually canceled everything. As I understand, their entire championship series was canceled, but their invites are actually honored for the next year, which is good. Yu-Gi-Oh's championship, from what I see, for what I can see from the actual event page, are all canceled except for the one that's in Minneapolis. I think that one is actually the YCS, but it is to be determined, and right now it's not a good place to hold anything, so more on that later. And then, of course, the other giant, Magic, has canceled all events in the 2020 year, from what I can see in their announcement, and kind of moved everything to online through Arena and as well as Magic Fest, which is pretty cool. Okay, but what about us? Because I think personally, our game is actually a little bit fragile. And when I say that, is because we really don't have that much option, or very many options on an online perspective and an official perspective. Because honestly, if we look at Magic, they have Arena and as well as other online options, and as well as building, and as well as everything. Okay, but what is next for us? And to me, I actually think our game is a little bit fragile, not only because it's pretty young, but because we actually don't really have that many options. We don't have very much support when it comes to online tournaments, and as well on an official basis, not only for official client, but also just like official tournaments. There isn't an official Untapped tournament. There is no official Octagon tournament, that type of thing. And if we look at Magic, again, the Magic Fest, and as well as the whole organization through their client, and as well as just like their website and just organization, all the other stuff, it would be nice to see that for DBS. Sadly, we're just really not at that point. But we do have people in our community from Core TCG and Super Players to PPG and George Machado, even my Untapped son Cody. If you took a look on the website, he is organizing his own Untapped tournaments and things like that, and even Dark Vassal, if I'm saying that right, those type of things. If you know any other online tournaments, let me know, because I know there are more. And personally, of course, in the last week, I've taken the time to provide more Untapped tournament or online tournaments, and that includes free entry to the themed weekly ones. So if you're interested to participate in that, or the $5 current format ones, definitely go ahead and join the Discord, because we're going to be firing those off pretty soon. However, I think there is a weird stigma about online play. Although we're all on the same playing field, as in there's no money or accessibility issues, I think some people just don't prefer playing online. It could be from sitting in front of a computer all day long. It could be the rounds in between, or the time taken in between, instead of just being there, sitting down, playing cards, and going to the next round. It's just completely different. There's just no structure. I'm trying personally to be better at that, but also it's just not preferable for someone. They don't want to take the chance, or they don't want to take the time out their day in order to deal with that. Due to that, and it also could be due to the platforms that we have. Untapped and as well as Octagon are great. It's just not an official client, and honestly, that's what we need. And that kind of brings me to what we really need in order to keep the interest into the game for the remainder of the year. Because even if we get past this and we have events, let's say in January or something like that, or December, the interest between now and then is going to be kind of drastic, and it just you really need to make sure that not only for us as content creators that we keep making content and making sure that we cover the game, but also for product releases, events, and things like that, to drive the players to continue to play the game, because we have no idea what's going to be like from now until December or even next year. So it's not really about if the game is going to be surviving. It's more of like, how is the game going to come back from not having events for an entire year, if that's the case. I think the first thing, again, when I mentioned it, we do need an online client. I cannot stress this enough. Do it the way that Pokemon does, in which they include packs with cards, codes in them, in which you get free cards or promos and things like that. I think that's a huge win. And I think that just should be implemented immediately as soon as we have an online client. And then for nationals, I think it should be free to enter at this point. It's either that, or we have a lot of last chance qualifiers, or a lot of events before then. It's just going to be a lot. It's going to be kind of difficult to do that. So I don't know if that's going to be a plausible thing. If it's not going to be free to enter, or if it gets canceled, I think all the invites from this year should be transferred over to the next year, and as well as have earlier events throughout the year for next year, and then an earlier national, something like summer. I prefer summer type of nationals anyway. It's better for like scheduling, and it's just better in general. It's just like the weather is better for like 90% of the states. So that's just me. We will see what happens for the remainder of the year. I think we're going to be okay for the remainder of the year, but it's going to be a little hard, in my opinion, to keep interest in the game. Not for myself. I'm going to continue to make content as long as the game lives, but for everybody else. And hopefully that something will, spark something in order to drive everybody to play the game, and as well as get excited for it. Of course, talked a little bit about like the content, and as well as the direction that I'm taking for the remainder of the year. You can read that in the website. Now, before I end the video, I actually do want to talk about some of the current events that are going on. So if you don't want to hear that, go ahead and exit the video. That's really up to you. Now, I wanted to give a shout out to Isaiah, and he actually recently made a YouTube channel, And I think you should actually go subscribe to it, only because, you know, he's a great player and he's going to have a lot of insights that I'm not going to have or anybody else is going to have. It's going to be a lot of value for you. And honestly, I'm not just saying that just to say it, or he told me to. He doesn't even know that I'm making this video, but I'm just saying. But he actually made, to make it all relatable, he made a message on the main Facebook group in which he's going to stop making content and videos until George Floyd's killers are prosecuted. And obviously that's a little bit more political. Obviously this is a little bit more political, but it also affects not only him but myself. Despite his channel being small and new, it is something to, you know, like, consider. And my channel is still small. And, you know, regardless of the comparison to other channels in the DBS community, I still think my platform is a little bit small. My channel is a little bit small, but this is going to be the best time or the best way to actually talk about it. Now, if you ask me how I felt about what's going on right now, I would probably tell you I feel the same way as I did when Tamir Rice was shot. I feel the same way during the situation of Freddie Gray. And, you know, I think other people feel the same with things getting worse every single day. I think there's a lot of anger and disappointment that is really showing in a lot of different ways. Now, if I had to suggest of what to do, it wouldn't be to black out your profile for the day, or to share something like a video or something like that, and then, you know, forget about it for in a month or something. But I think having an open mind and being sympathetic is a really good start. Just listen and try to gain some perspective before anything else. It's much like if a Syrian woman or a Syrian person told me about their struggles within the last decade, or an Indian person told me about the women in their community, in their country, and what they go through, right? I would have nothing to say about that. That's just not my place to say, but I will definitely listen and understand. For me, I kind of have the benefit and the curse of being mixed, right? I might be more approachable, but I also still might be followed and pulled over. You know, people might be more friendly to me, but they also might be more comfortable saying the N-word around me, right? I might be able to make friends with other black people, but I might not be black enough. You know, I might be able to get my degree, but I still might sound white, or I might sound just well-spoken. You know, these are just things that I've experienced, whether big or small to you or me. And, you know, that is just one of the main reasons why I haven't had a face cam before, is because, you know, I didn't want to give another reason for people to give hate, right? And I think at this point, I not only have enough support, but just confidence just not to care about that anymore. And I also think that you have to remind yourself that we're all human, right? We all have our own experiences, our emotions, and inspirations. And sometimes, however, it should be clear when something isn't being taken seriously, or isn't being heard, or trying to gain perspective of it. And that can kind of divide ourselves in the message that is trying to be heard. But when we are going to be taking the time to hear each other and to understand each other, that will hopefully be the majority to start outweighing those who don't. And from there, we can actually have some true progress. If you do want to help or learn, I did add some links in the description below. And with that, I hope to see you in the next video.